Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. Well, I mean, it is. It's like half a football podcast. There are no games in the upcoming week because it's international break. So if you're looking for football games for next week, sorry, they're not being covered here, I'm afraid. However, we are going through last week's games, so, there is still football to discuss. Just join us next week and we'll be back to regular football podcasting. Yeah. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously the big one is share the podcast around. If you've got a friend, a family member or any of those sorts of people in your life who might enjoy football, send them this podcast. They will love it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, for those of you watching on the YouTubes, you'll see four happy, smiling faces staring right back at you, which can only mean one thing, or two things, or possibly three things. Well, it's one of those. It's your football fix from us here at the CookieCast Podcast Network. Obviously, I'm joined by the three wise men to my stupid monkey. I'm sure there's a thing in that, but obviously Mez's Cook, Woodmansey and Moore. How are we this week, gentlemen?
I'm very much enjoying your analogy for a change.
Nailed it once again. It'll be like on The Big Lebowski when Steve Buscemi's character misses the strike or the spare, and we're like, and when you nail one of those analogies, and we'll be like, oh, something bad's about to happen now.
I've never seen that film, so
shocker.
We'll move swiftly on. This will be a very, very short podcast this week, as there are no games to predict for the upcoming week, as it is the international break. I think this would be the time where you'd insert that meme of the guy. Is it from Narcos? I believe the show where the sad Hispanic-looking gentleman with the mustache is just sat in various different places, looking incredibly sad. That will be all of us this weekend. But that's this weekend. We've got to go through last weekend's games, and unfortunately for Mr. Woodmansey, we do have to start in Norfolk, where Norwich City took on Hull City, and was it a bit of a blessing that you didn't see this one live / on the telly box, Mr.
Woodmansey? If I just sit still enough and be quiet, do you reckon that the listeners and YouTube watchers will maybe think I've just frozen, so we don't have to talk about this?
I don't think that's how it works these days, mate.
Yes, okay. Weirdly, I've probably written more in my book about this game than I have some other games for quite a while. I'll start with the final score. The final score was Norwich 4, Hull City 0. So we could talk about how good Norwich were, but Hull really didn't help themselves at all. Norwich had two good chances before Núñez opened the scoring on 16 minutes, and then Sargent doubled the lead on 20 minutes. Considering we lost 4-0, it could actually have been worse as well, because before both of those goals, Panda had continued his recent good form between the sticks and had pulled off another couple of double saves. Hull did have chances. It wasn't all Norwich. Balumi and Beattie are both kind of squandering some good opportunities. And then we got to half-time, and it was still 2-0. Bit of a strange one as well, because Norwich had to change their goalkeeper at half-time because Gunn went off injured, I think the kid they brought on was called Long. But unfortunately, Hull City's fortune didn't change with their goalkeeper. Norwich actually won a penalty on 55 minutes after Louis Coyle decided that he was going to take up volleyball momentarily in the penalty area. No idea why a man of his experience, I said experience, Paul, not age, had his hand that high up in the area. It was ridiculous, to be fair. But yeah, penalty. Sargent put the ball on the spot, ready to claim his second of the afternoon, and then absolutely twatted it against the post. So, a little bit of a let off there. But then Norwich got their own let off because Balumi went up the other end and hit the post from a free kick shortly after. And then, just to piss on everybody's parade, Norwich got their third of the afternoon on 66 minutes from Gordon. Not Anthony Gordon. He's not decided to start playing for Norwich now. And shortly after that, Hull actually got the ball in the back of the net. Wasn't an own goal, cheeky bastard. João Pedro had been brought on to make his Hull City debut. Kamara, who was getting booed out of the building on the basis of he'd just signed for Hull from Norwich, he played there last year, swung the ball in from the left flank, hit João Pedro on the point of his shoulder, and went in the net. And then the referee gave handball. So, no goal. If you watch it back, his arm was kind of up, but it's definitely like the point of his shoulder. And if that is handball, then so is every free kick that's ever been taken. It is just ridiculous. But by that point, we were already 3 down anyway, so really, did it really fucking matter? Saints completed the scoring on 78 minutes, which rounded off pretty much a dismal day for Hull City. So, not a lot of fun. It's strange though, because I'll keep coming back to this as we go throughout the season, but it's just that meeting again. Some weeks we'll win 3-1, some weeks we'll get beat 4-0. We'll tell you what, you're fucking right so far, dickhead, but it's not a lot of fun to watch at this point. Give me shitty 1-0 wins every time at this point. Let's just have a little bit of foundations laid, shall we, rather than going straight for the top shelf, taking a running jump and face planting the concrete, because that's the way it's going to go if it keeps happening. So, yeah,
a little bit of common sense football probably needed rather than gung ho approach. Predictions wise, as is his usual guise, Mr. Cook was the most optimistic of the bunch. They've gone for a 1-0 Hull win with Bedia to score. Sadly, no points there. I'd gone for a 2-2 draw. Goals for Sargent and Schwartau, Bedia and Nalem. So I do get a bonus point for the Sargent goal. Matt had also gone 2-2 with Saints and Sargent to score, Bedia and Millar to score for Hull. So 2 points for the correct goal scorers there. Stu had gone for a 3-1 Norwich win. So correct on the result. Also had Sargent and Nunes in his goal scorers. Sadly, no goal for Schwartau. And also no goal for Millar of Hull. So 3 points for Mr. Woodmansey there. Not a great start. And unfortunately, it doesn't get any better with our second game of the week, which saw Watford take on my boys at Middlesbrough. Now, it did start somewhat better in the fact that Middlesbrough seemed to open this game with the better of the chances. It started, went into the break 0-0 at the half, but from the highlights that I saw, Middlesbrough had the best of the chance in the first half. Finazaz headed wide when he was pretty much unmarked. Emmanuel Latte-Lath had another header inside the 60-yard box that he managed to put wide. There was a couple of other chances from both sides, but it did go in 0-0 at the break. But the deadlock was broken on the 54th minute by Middlesbrough. And it was the first goal for the centre-back, George Edmondson. A free kick from the right played in by Finazaz wasn't cleared by the Watford players. And Edmondson managed to find himself in and around the 60-yard box to stab the ball home for his first in Middlesbrough colours. They did have a couple of chances to actually extend the lead, but weren't able to capitalise on them. A bit of as seems to be the mantra of the Borough season at the moment, poor finishing. Put paid to the chances of them scoring a second, and they were made to pay for that on the 75th minute when Kayembe scored the equaliser. The ball had been carried through the middle of the pitch, I believe, by Andrews. I believe was the player for Watford. It worked its way out to the edge of the box. Worked out to the right hand side when the ball was worked back in the edge of the box, where Kayembe finished first time to Sonny Dieng's left hand side. At first glance, it looked like it came through a bit of a crowd of players, but watching it back, Dieng probably should do a little bit better with it. It's quite close to him. It is fairly low down, but obviously you'd like to think that a keeper could maybe get down a little bit quicker there and just palm it on the post, but sadly he was unable to do so. And 1-1 soon became a 2-1 in the 87th minute when Barr scored the winner for Watford. There was a throw-in from the right-hand side by Andrews once again. It was flicked on by Matty Pollock and finished on the volley by Barr from about the edge of the box. Edge of the 18-yard box. Again, not a great deal that Dieng could have done with that one, but arguably should have saved the first one. So, Borough were in a positive position. Possibly should have had enough to finish the game off. Didn't make it 2-0. Were caught with a bit of a sucker punch at the end, and were made to pay by losing the game 2-1. Standard procedure as it seems to be at the moment for Borough in certain games, and they're not taking their chances. Predictions wise, no one had a Watford win, so no points for results there. Andy had gone 2-0 Borough, Latte and Bergzorg, no points. I'd gone for a 1-1 draw. Shaq for Tadzi and McGree with the goals. No points there. McGree didn't even start the game. 3 games in the space of a week is probably a little bit too much for McGree after he's come back from his injury problems. So only came on in the second half. Stuart and Matt had both gone for 1-1 draws. And they'd both gone for Azaz to score for the Borough and Kayembe to score for Watford. So managed to bag themselves a bonus point for the goal scorer there. So after 2 games, Andy still yet to get off the mark. Myself, 1 point. Matt, 3 points. Stu, 4 points from 2 games so far. And our final game of the week took us back up into the Premier League, where Chelsea, free spending Chelsea no less, were taking on Nottingham Forest, who, I don't know if you're aware of this, lads, but earlier in the season, Nottingham Forest did indeed beat Liverpool. I believe the only team so far this season to take any points off Liverpool. Just thought I'd clarify that from the podcast. I feel it's imperative that we keep reminding people of that until it stops being the case. Obviously, because of the fact that Forest did take 3 points off Liverpool, how did they do in this game against Chelsea, Matt?
It's important to, if when we're discussing Forest against these big clubs, that remind people that they did beat Liverpool earlier on this season. So they made the trip down to Chelsea to see which part of their ground they'd sold off to some company within their company to get around PSR. Maybe they'd sold a seat for £1 million or something like that to somebody, and all that kind of thing, just to get around it. But I think it was kind of by the kind of commentary that I heard, and I kind of think it sounded like a bit of a kind of high action game. The first half went by, no goals, few kind of goal mouth chances, but nothing kind of massive. But then just after half time, Forest got a free kick just inside Chelsea's half. James Ward-Prowse did kind of one of the things one of the reasons that he was signed for the club. Nice kind of floated ball into about the kind of 18, just to the edge of the 18-yard box. Milenkovic rose, nodded it down, and Chris Wood tapped it, redirected it into the back of the net. 1-0 Forest. Didn't hold on to the league for very long. Nice bit of work from Cole Palmer. Played out to Madueke, who cut in on his left foot and kind of hit a bit of a kind of daisy cutter that took a couple of deflections on the way in to kind of get past Matt Sells in the corner. And to be fair, going on the game that he had this on Sunday, it's probably one of the only ways he was going to concede a goal because he was absolutely immense. James Ward-Prowse then managed to get himself sent off. I mean, they said, "Oh yeah, the first offence was like a reasonable one." I've seen it in the NFL. That's a horse collar, 10 yards, first down. All that automatic first down kind of thing. It was quite a nasty little kind of tackle. The second one, I think the best description I heard was, if Stevie G would have done that 10 years ago, Liverpool wouldn't have been twattering on about their COVID Premier League title as much as they were at the moment. Because if he would have fallen over and grabbed the ball like James Ward-Prowse did, then they and it was quite funny because obviously he was like, "Oh bollocks, I'm going to get sent off here," and then had a moment where he thought, "Oh, maybe I won't," and pulled his socks off, turned around. I don't know whether the referee did that like real, C-bombish thing where he let him walk so far and then was like, "Oh yeah, James, just come here. I'm going to make sure you fully see your red card," kind of thing, and off he trotted. And you think, all right, Forest are going to go 10 men backs to the wall, kind of thing. Absolutely not. Obviously we're mainly a Forest, Hull, and Middlesbrough thing, but Cole Palmer had a quiet game, but then obviously towards the end of the game, where there's a little bit more space for him, was immense. There's a bit where he kind of does a little Dennis Bergkamp-esque touch around Morato, I think, and then Sal's does a double save that's absolutely spot on. But then Nico Williams had a chance. Jota Silva had a chance for Forest. I think Nicholas Jackson had a really good header right near the end. But also in injury time, it's a bit of a melee, as it were. It's funny how things are being presented because Cucurella did something shitty to a Forest player before, shock. But then all that seems to have been shown since is, and to be fair, what Nico Williams did to him was equally shitty. Kind of tripped him and then gave him a little shove as well. And of course, he reacted in a perfectly rational way because that's what Cucurella does. And then chaos ensued. Nicholas Jackson hit Morato. I don't know if anybody's seen Morato. I certainly would not be hitting him because that guy is stacked and has a look of psycho about him, kind of thing. So I was like, and he definitely wanted to get his piece of Nicholas Jackson when I saw that. So yeah, all a bit silly, but apparently they've looked at it, and Nicholas Jackson will not face any further charges, even though he full on smacked him around the face. So speak of that what you will. I think I heard one person describe it as Cucurella. If Ryan Yates is a shit house, then Cucurella is 100 Ryan Yateses. I was like, it's a fair point because he is just an unbearable shit house as well. He's not like doing niggly little things. He's just full on blatant shit house of people. So yeah, finished 1-1. Decent point. Go on, shoot.
Just every time you've said his name, I can't let this pass without going, have you guys seen the video of the players doing the player name pronunciations that they give to the commentary teams before the season starts? And every time he said, I just really want you to just go, Nicholas Jackson, like he does on the video, because it's the best ever. I think that's what his name needs to be read out as every time. It's perfect. But then I'm not going to read out the caption that was above the video because that's not very nice.
The other thing I was going to say is, considering that Forest have beaten Liverpool and also got a point at Stamford Bridge, how many points better off do you think Forest are at this point in the season than what they were last season?
So what, is it 6 games in?
7 games. We're in 7 games in.
Let's go 6 points better off.
I feel like it's a trick question. I feel like he's going to say
well,
that they're not.
obviously.
2 points better off.
Oh, interesting.
Genuinely 2. And I was like, oh, that feels like it's like
Still,
kind of.
it's two-thirds of a win over Liverpool better off than they were last season. Put it that way.
That's it, and that I think the thing is though, the slight difference is that we actually look decent and we look solid, and the squad looks deep. You think in that time we've lost 3 players. Well, Tyro's not back and might never ever come back by the look of it. Kind of, it just seems like he's a long way away from ever being close to what he was, and obviously we lost Sangare, Danilo, Gibbs White has had a booking, and fingers crossed isn't out for long. But yeah, we just seem to be a lot more solid and a little bit more resilient and have a way of change of pace as well. So yeah, 1-1 draw, chuffed with that. 10th in the league.
Big time. So 1-1 draw. Most positive result of the weekend for any of our teams. Predictions wise, I'd gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. Goes for Jackson, Palmer, and Hudson-Odoi. No points for me. Matt had gone for a 3-1 Chelsea win. 2 for Palmer, 1 for Jackson, 1 for Hudson-Odoi. No points for Matt. Stuart gone 2-0 to Chelsea. Palmer and Madueke to score. So he gets a bonus point for the Madueke goal. Andy had gone 2-0 to Nottingham Forest with a Hudson-Odoi goal. And, of course, his weekly Wood was out. So does get a bonus point for his Wood prediction, which means closing the week out, both me and Andy finish the week with 1 point from 3 games. Matt, 3 points from 3 games, but taking the week's win with a whopping 5 points from the 3 games. It is Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. Well done to you, sir. This would obviously usually be the part of the podcast where we would go on to discuss the week's upcoming games, but as said at the start of the podcast, there are none. Sadly, international break brings with it no games for us to discuss. There are 2 England games. They're Nations League games. We're not really that bothered.
No. It was the Paddy Power again that were like 7 games into the season and the second international break of the season. The game's gone. It's not. It's true. There are even adverts on the radio at the moment for different betting companies, and one of the voiceover things in it is about how it's the real fans that are not looking forward to international break. So they know, like, nobody gives a shit anymore unless it's tournament football time. Nobody cares.
I think we're only like 4 or 5 weeks away from another one, just so everybody can book that into your diaries. Joy is another thing you don't give a shit about.
Well, unless you gents have got anything else you'd like to raise.
The tiny little bit of Hull City news, I guess, in the sense of seeing as it is international break time, they've decided that anybody that's not on international duty, so basically almost everybody in the entire team, they've sent them to their training camp in Turkey again for a bit of a team bonding session. So they're getting some warm weather training. They've been doing such important football drills as playing beach volleyball today, from what I've seen. However, we'll see if the break does any good when they come back after that 4-0 thumping. But I think it's good. It's obviously good for the team that the owner's got his properties and hookups and all the rest of it to get him away and do that. Like, it literally seemed like it's come about at the drop of a hat. Yeah, just one day, nothing. Next day, they're all at Humberside Airport. Off they go on their private Hull City jet. So we'll see if that if anything comes of that.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, like I said, very short one this week. All that's left for me to do is to thank these 2 gentlemen, as always, for joining me to go through the details of their teams. To thank you, the listeners and the watchers, for joining us to listen to us talk about our teams. Obviously, if you are new here, if this is the first time, maybe think about having a little subscribe to the channel. There's not just football on here. There's all sorts. There's NFL. There's wrestling. There's I was going to say American football again. Already covered that one. There's the F1 podcast from the F1 guys. There's also Mr. Cook over there emptying his worry hole. Stuart just pointing at me.
And there's the NFL, Paul. Don't forget to mention the NFL one.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've said about the NFL podcast. There's one other one. Oh, the NFL podcast. That's the one. Yes. But yes, plenty to be going on with over at the CookieCast Podcast Network. Join us again next week, where we will have some predictions for you for the upcoming games for Middlesbrough, Hull, and Nottingham Forest. But until then, take care of yourselves, keep an eye out for each other, and we will see you next time. Party bye for now.
So there you go, what do you think of that? International football scuppers things somewhat, but we'll be back next week to talk all the football. We'll be back. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being here. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button. And that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.